Miracles. Know that the evidence of who claims prophethood is the miracle, mu'jizah. Most significant word for us is the Arabic word mu'jizah. And personally, I wouldn't be very shaken when a person used the word miracle in English for something other than how we're using it now. The mu'jizah, the disabler or the crippler. It is linguistically derived from the word ajiz, inability. But closer in derivation is i'jaz. Ajiz, ayn, jim, zai. Those are the root letters. These root letters have the meaning of weakness and inability. But the actual source of the word mu'jizah is i'jaz. I'jaz means crippling, disabling. So the word that we use for miracle in Arabic, which is mu'jizah, it comes from ajiz because it displays the creation's inability to discredit who performed it. If someone claimed prophethood during the time of its possibility, which is before the coming of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it would not be obligatory to accept him without the performance of a miracle. Yani, if it's a time where the claim of prophethood is possible or valid, then one should not rush to deny him, this one who's claiming prophethood. He wouldn't be obligated to accept him without the performance of a miracle. That sentence does not mean he wouldn't be obligated to accept him without seeing the miracle with his own eyes. That's something else. That sentence means something else. This sentence, take it as it is. He wouldn't be obligated to accept him without the performance of a miracle. Yani, once a prophet performs a miracle, then acceptance of his call is binding. And there was no prophet of Allah but that he was supported by a miracle or more. And we have some miracles coming, do we not? Yes. In the big explanation of Tahawiyah, the Shaykh defined the miracle as Amrun ilahi, a divine matter, khariqun lil'ada, supernatural, fi dari taklif, happening during the time of accountability, meaning in the dunya. We're not talking about the afterlife here. Li'izhari sidqi mudda'i nubuwah, displaying or exposing the truthfulness or the honesty of who claims prophethood. مع عجز من ينازعه عن معارضته بمثل ذلك الأمر الإلهي, without being replicable by the opposition to discredit him. Without being replicable by the opposition to discredit him. مع عجز من ينازعه عن معارضته بمثل ذلك الأمر الإلهي. The definition of a miracle is a great example of our scholars' jami' mani' process of inclusion and elimination style of defining. Process of inclusion and elimination style of defining, not just process of elimination. Their style of defining things is by including everything that should be included and excluding everything that should be excluded. You're probably accustomed now because of your staying consistent in the lessons. The scholars would say some definition, and then they start to break the definition down, and they would say, when we said this, that's to include this, and when we said this, that's to exclude this, and that's how they narrow down a perfect definition. So being a divine supernatural matter is the type of thing it is, like the Quran. It is Muhammad's greatest and strongest miracle, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because it is a physical as well as a mental indication, and it will last until Judgment Day. as opposed to other miracles. They were specific to a particular time or place. Footnote. The clarification of the miracle of the Quran is in pointing out its good composition and the harmony of its words and its eloquence and its summarization in the appropriate places. Yani, its good composition is the niceness of the words that the Quran uses. And the harmony of its words includes the niceness of the letters that are in the vicinities of each other. And its eloquence, yani its very beautiful style. And its summarization in the appropriate places. Yani all this whole paragraph can be elaborated. Like this paragraph is a metin in itself of a sort, a brief metin. Could take explanation and unraveling. And its summarization in the appropriate places. Yani, if you could understand the Quran, you'll be listening. And so much of the story passed by in very few words. Very amazing. Or so much meaning is imparted on you in very few words. Included in that is its unique style. You never heard anything like the Quran. And the fact that it is different from prose and poetry. You know what poetry is? That's metered, rhymed speech. Prose is contrary to poetry. And some scholars said the Quran is not prose or poetry. Neither prose nor poetry. Yani, the Arabic word for prose is nathr, nun tha ra, nathr. And poetry is shi'r. So some scholars said Quran is neither nathr nor shi'r. It furthermore includes information about the unseen. Many, many, many instances of that. Even about isolated incidents, like when the Jews went to the people of Quraysh to join forces with them, and the people of Quraysh made them prostrate to their idols as a compromise. Or like how Allah, or many things in the Quran. Like what happened to previous nations. Like the stories of previous nations. What do you say to a Christian if the Christian says, this Quran, Muhammad, all he did was take from the books of the Jews and the Christians? You could say to him, number one, that's not true. And number two, if he's a prophet, what do you expect that he's going to be saying? Something that the prophets of old didn't say? If he's really a prophet like they are, then he should be saying what they are saying. So how could you use the fact that what Prophet Muhammad came with is very familiar, a lot of it is very familiar to Jews and Christians, to discredit him? It's really because that's what he's telling you. He's a prophet amongst the prophets, including Moses and Jesus. It is the Quran mentioning many things that the Jews and Christians know that makes the Quran a proof. Yeah, you're welcome. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This information was unknown to the pagan Arabs and was known to a few individuals among the people of the book. Yani Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he came telling the stories, reciting the stories of the Israelites. And the Arabs didn't know the stories of the Israelites. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he didn't have a Jewish teacher. And any person who says that he took from the Jews and the Christians, he's just trying to say something because he can't substantiate what he's saying. Yeah, and he can't point out at what point in the Prophet's life, his well-documented biography, at what point did he dedicate time to sit under a Christian or a Jew, be his pupil, and take from him? When did he take from them? And who were his teachers then? And where was this tutelage? It is not known that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam met with them and studied under them. The Quran also informs about what will happen in the future. It fell in compliance with what happened during the Prophet's life and afterwards. So this is the part that maybe some people are missing. When the Quran tells about things that happened during the Prophet's life, those are tellings of the unseen, because those are things that happened and nobody was there to witness them and Allah revealed it, or things that didn't happen yet and Allah had revealed it and then it happened while they were alive. One example is the saying of Allah, سيقول السفهاء من الناس سيقول السفهاء من الناس ما ولاهم عن قبلتهم التي كانوا عليها. It means the fools amongst the people shall say, that means they didn't say it yet, what has turned them from their qibla that they were facing? And then it happened. And other things like that. Yani, they would have gone away to a battle and the hypocrites would have fallen back. And then Allah reveals to the Prophet verses about the hypocrites who fell back and what they're going to say when Muslims come back. And that when they say it to you, believers, turn away from them, and things like this. And then it would happen. Add to that the awe and reverence that takes place upon its recitation, even for a kafir. A kafir would hear the recitation of the Quran and cry. And the fear that takes place in the heart of he who hears it. In the heart of whoever hears it. And the fact that he who recites it and he who hears it do not get bored of it. Yes. It is also easy to memorize. For the 5 or 7-year-old child can memorize it entirely. And that's common for the Muslims. And this is one of the merits of the Quran over other books of revelation. The Jews and the Christians don't have a single hafiz, not a single one. It is also easy to recite. And that's true. You would hear a reciter reciting without seeing his face, and you wouldn't know. Maybe you'd think he was an Arab. You have no idea. He might be Chinese, or he might be something else. I know a brother, Chinese brother, had very nice recitation. Herb 8. He was very cool. I liked him. MashaAllah. Yeah, Ezra memorized the Torah. I'm talking about the kuffar now, like the Jews and Christians. Now, they don't have a single hafiz. And even Ezra memorizing the Torah was an anomaly. That was an anomaly for them. A rarity. No one denies this except if he were ignorant or stubborn. No one denies this, these effects of the recitation of the Quran unless he's ignorant or stubborn. Among its most apparent miracles is that it has remained intact while its miraculous attributes have remained. Yani, it stayed miraculous. The slaves of Allah will recite the Quran and it's going to keep being miraculous always. Among the most famous of those examples is its challenge to the Jews to wish for death. For none of those who have come or gone have stepped up to that challenge, and the Quran says that they never will, despite their great hatred towards this religion and their determination to ruin it. So, being a divine supernatural matter is the type of thing a miracle is, like the Quran. And Moses' splitting the sea, yani, in 12 pathways, leaving dry ground and the water standing without a barrier to hold it up. And his staff transforming into a serpent 3 times. First time when he first got the revelation according to a saying. According to a saying when he first got the revelation. Because they differed about when Moses was first made a prophet. Was he already a prophet when he was in Egypt, or he didn't become a prophet until after he left Egypt? The incident I'm talking about is when he left Midian and he was with his family on his way back to Egypt. When he saw some light and he thought that he spotted a fire, so he went to go see, and that's when Allah gave him revelation. So Allah Ta'ala taught him how to perform some miracles. The miracle of his stick turning into a serpent and the miracle of his hand illuminating. Because at that time, in that incident, Allah revealed to Moses "What is that in your right hand, O Moses?" He said, "It is my staff. I lean upon it, and I beat the trees with it to make the leaves fall for my flock, and I have other uses for it." Then Allah commanded him, "Toss it, O Moses." So he obeyed his Lord and he tossed it. And then started wriggling, wiggling, vibrating, transforming right before his eyes into a huge serpent, a dragon. And when he saw that, he turned and ran away. And he didn't look back. That's natural fear. That's not cowardice. And then Allah revealed to him, "Fear not." So Moses, he obeyed his Lord and he feared not. And he put his hands between the fangs of this serpent and he touched it. And when he touched it, it turned back into a stick in his hand. That's one time. Second time was when he went to the Pharaoh with his brother Harun alayhi salam. And then he talked to the Pharaoh until the Pharaoh got tired of talking to him and threatened him. And then he told him, "How about if I show you a clear miracle?" The Pharaoh told him, "Produce your sign if you are truthful." So then he tossed his stick and it turned into a serpent right there in front of them. And it frightened the Pharaoh so bad, it was said that he urinated on himself. And it was said that his health started to deteriorate from there. Although he had not been sick ever before that. And he was 400 years old. And then the third time when he was in the contest with the magicians and he defeated them. For your information, Imam An-Nasafi mentioned in his tafsir about this serpent returning back into a stick. He commented on this because the serpent itself was many times larger than the original stick. So that means that it has more particles, more atoms. So what happened to the atoms when it turned back into a stick? He said either Allah made those atoms vanish into nothingness, or they broke away from the serpent like ashes as it turned back into a stick. So his staff transforming into a serpent, yes. Yeah, so the scholar Imam An-Nasafi in his tafsir, he commented on the serpent turning back into a stick. Because as a serpent, it's many times larger than the original stick itself. So being many times larger means that it has many more atoms, so that it takes up more space. So when it turns back into a stick, what happened to all those extra atoms? Imam An-Nasafi said either Allah made them vanish into nothingness, or they broke away from the serpent as it turned back into a stick like ashes. That's clear? You're welcome. And Moses' hand becoming illuminated when he pulled it out of his clothing. Yani, Allah taught him how to do this miracle. To insert his hand into his opening in the front of Yani. And then to pull it out and his hand will be illuminated. And then to put his hand back again and pull it out and it will be back again as it was originally. And iron being softened for David. Allah made iron soft for David so that he could bend it with his hands. He could bend the iron in his hands. Like how you could bend like foil, or how you could bend clay or something like this. And then he used to make armor, chainmail yani, like shirts, clothing to for war. and Solomon having control of the wind, devils, birds, and other land and sea animals. Great miracle, by which he conquered the world. He was one of the two Muslim conquerors of the world, Solomon and Dhul Qarnayn. Jesus reviving the dead, healing the lepers and healing the blind, those who are born blind, in fact. Jonas surviving being swallowed by a fish. I learned that by Talaqi, that's a miracle. I heard that, but I never saw it documented somewhere. Locusts of gold raining from the cloud for Job. Joseph informing the inmates of their meals before they arrive. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being greeted by stones and water springing from between his fingers. The moaning of the tree stump for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, giving numerous people drink from a small amount of water, and also giving numerous people food from a small amount of food, which was also performed by Jesus alayhi salam. The pebbles that glorified Allah in the Prophet's hand alayhi salatu wassalam. The tree that responded to his call by trudging through the ground and testifying to his prophethood alayhi salatu wassalam. The splitting of the full moon, replacing Qatada's eye after it was knocked out in the Battle of Badr and dangled on his cheekbone. Food saying Subhanallah in the Prophet's hand, alayhi salatu wassalam. And the Isra and the Mi'raj, Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, the night journey and the ascension into the heavens. That was also a miracle. And also, it was reported that Adam foretold the flood of Noah. So that's a miracle. If he did that, then that's a miracle. And also, it was reported that when the animals were boarding Noah's ark, they were boarding his ark in two lines. Males on one side, females on the other side. And he stood between these lines with his arms out and his hands passing over the animals as they were going into the ark. So that's a miracle too. And Al-Khadir, he lifted up that giant wall. Okay. These footnotes just have some details about some of these miracles here. I want to stick to the book here. I'll come back to those inshallah. But here, let's read this one. Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, the night journey and the ascension. So Al-Isra, footnote. Isra is confirmed by the explicit documentation of the Quran and the authentic hadith. So it is obligatory to believe that Allah made the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam take a night journey from Mecca to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. It's obligatory. Al-Mi'raj, the ascension is called Al-Mi'raj. It is taken from the word Uruj, ascension. The Shaykh said in the big explanation of At-Tahawi that the Mi'raj refers to stairs that resemble a ladder. Its steps are alternating golden and silver stairs. The ascension, and he said in the smaller explanation of At-Tahawi that the Mi'raj is the ascension to the seven skies and to wherever Allah willed of the upper world. After the night journey, the Prophet ﷺ was ascended up into the skies. It was confirmed by the explicit hadiths. As for the Quran, it was not documented therein with an explicit documentation that does not accept any other explanation. The signal to it is the saying of Allah, لِنُرِيَهُ مِنْ آيَاتِنَا, so that we would show him of our amazing signs, which is the upper world. To let Muhammad witness the upper world, therein is a signal, because the signs mentioned in the verse are not restricted to the signs on the earth. It refers to what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw that night of amazing signs of the power of Allah, whether earthly or heavenly. Among what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam experienced there in the heavens was hearing the speech of Allah and seeing the self of Allah with his heart, which is addressed in the section of seeing Allah. We already saw that. However, there came in the Quran that which is virtually an explicit documentation, i.e., it is practically explicit, but not really. The Shaykh said in his small explanation, Hawi, that the Mi'raj is practically mentioned blatantly by the saying of Allah, وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ نَزْلَةً أُخْرَى عند سدرة المنتهى, which means he saw him another time at the tree called Sidratul Muntaha. The only reason this is not explicit is because Sidratul Muntaha, being above the heavens, is not confirmed in a definitively explicit text. Yani, Shaykh saying, for anyone who knows where Sidratul Muntaha, for anyone who knows that Sidratul Muntaha really exists and where it is, then he knows that this is actually the Quran confirming that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam ascended into the heavens. It is a tree whose base is in the 6th sky and extends beyond the 7th sky. This is why some of the people of knowledge said that the denier of the Isra blasphemes, while the denier of the Mi'raj does not blaspheme. However, whoever understands that Sidratul Muntaha is in the sky, and yet he still denies the Mi'raj, blasphemes. He does indeed blaspheme. As for the case of him not knowing and not understanding that from the Quran, and not believing that the Muslims believe that, then he does not blaspheme. The evidence for the Mi'raj is not like the evidence for the Isra. The evidence for the Isra is stronger. عندها جنة المأوى is not translated. Doesn't even need to be here. Thank you. Question, why is the miracle for Noah to stand there while those animals are passing by him with his arms out and his hands passing over all of them? Did you ever see anybody do anything like that before, or hear about someone do anything like that before? Never. What do you think is going to happen to somebody if something even remotely close to that were to happen? Is clear for you the answer? Subhanallah. Yani, take the whole scenario here. What's the whole scenario here? The animals are coming to his boat that he built. It's just that's one point right there. All of the animals are coming to his boat, males and females. So that's one thing right there. That includes predators, and that includes animals usually are hostile. Like, you're not going to just go walk up to the elephant. You're not going to just walk up to the hippopotamus or like anything. You're not going to just walk up to the dogs. So is it clear? That's a great miracle there. Subhanallah. You're welcome. Subhanallah. You know, sometimes I walk through the parking lot of a place and there's seagull. You know seagull? That bird that's at the beach? There's seagulls. They are congregated together, a flock of seagulls. It crossed my mind one time just to go over there and go over to those seagulls. So what they're going to do, they're going to fly away. Or they might even, maybe, attack me, isn't it? Yes, or one of them. And like that, yani, you put the animals in the cages in the zoo for a reason. Or you do the reverse. You open up the land and you put the people inside the cages and drive them through the land where the animals are out in the open so they can't eat the people. So Prophet Nuh alayhi salam had all kinds of animals there, all kinds. That includes predators and that includes hostile herbivores. Subhanallah. Some of those herbivores are not friendly. Subhanallah wa bihamdih. طيب. Yeah, some of those animals, if you just even try to touch them, just try to get close to them, they will attack you. This excludes mere amazing things as long as they are within the laws of nature. They are not miracles, but it includes other unnatural phenomenon that we want to exclude. Yani, what? When we say a divine supernatural matter, that's the type of thing a miracle is. This amount, divine supernatural matter. Supernatural means unnatural. Unnatural means not in accordance with the laws of nature. This amount includes things that we want to exclude, other unnatural phenomena that we want to exclude. So what follows are qualifiers that the scholars call furu', the branches. These qualifiers limit the type of thing and narrow it down by including and excluding, until we include everything that needs to be in and exclude everything that needs to be out, and then we'll have a perfect definition. Happening during the time of accountability, which is this present life, excludes the supernatural things that take place in the afterlife. They are not miracles. Yani, the afterlife is just different from the dunya altogether. And paradise and hell, those realms are different from this dunya altogether. Their nature, that is, or the way things go there, is different from here. Yani, supernatural in this sentence here refers to being contrary to the way this world is. This world with its, if you want to use the word, laws of nature, yani, its nature and its norm, like how things fall down and water cools and fire burns, etc. So the afterlife, judgment day that is, and paradise and hell, they are not like this dunya. So what happens then is not included in the talk we're discussing now about miracles. It displays truthfulness because it complies with and verifies the claimer's claim of prophethood. Because every sane person knows that reviving the dead, transforming a stick into a serpent, and bringing a she-camel out of a solid boulder are not natural. Thus, by making this miracle appear, it is as if Allah said, "This slave of mine is truthful in everything that he conveys from me." Because deeming someone truthful by a doing is like deeming him truthful by a saying. Had he not been truthful, Allah would not have made this miracle appear for him. Because whoever verifies a liar is a liar. And it is impossible that Allah be a liar. Which statement? By making this miracle appear, it is as if Allah said, oh, okay. Because deeming someone truthful by a doing, by some action, is like deeming him truthful by a saying, by a word. Yani, deeming him truthful by an action, which is, in this case, creating the miracle, is like deeming him truthful by a word, like saying, he is truthful. So by Allah creating this compliant miracle, this miracle that backs up his claim, then it's like he said, this one is honest in his claim. You're welcome. Had he not been truthful, I'm glad, thank you for taking me back there. That statement, it registered clear for me. This is what the scholars say. Maybe I said it so many times, it's just so clear for me now. Because deeming someone truthful by a doing is like deeming him truthful by a saying. This is the example the scholars gave. They said, Allah is creating miracles for the prophets is like as if Allah said, this slave of mine said the truth in what he conveys from me. Had he not been truthful, Allah would not have made this miracle appear for him, because whoever verifies a liar is a liar, and it is impossible that Allah be a liar. Therefore, had something supernatural happened to someone who claims prophethood, but this supernatural thing conflicted with his claim, such as if he said, the proof for my prophethood is that this stone will speak. Then the stone spoke and contradicted him, saying, you are a liar. This backfire would not be a miracle. It would be a disgrace. And ihana. Had it been possible that a miracle would verify a liar, there would be no way to distinguish the truthful prophet from the lying false prophet. If it were said to us, why is it impossible for a miracle to verify a false prophet as a means of misguiding the creation, since it is valid according to you that Allah misguides the creation, and he is not obligated to do what is best for them? So that's a very interesting question there. What makes it interesting is what it takes to even formulate that question. We say in response, because had the miracle taken place by the hand of a liar, then obliging the creations with faith in the prophets would be accountability for what they are unable to do. And this is not valid, Yani. Making someone accountable to do what he's unable to do is not valid, Yani. So what's the meaning of the question? The question is, why do you insist that a false prophet could not perform a miracle that complies with his claim? And you say that if a false prophet were to perform some supernatural feat, it would for sure backfire on him. Why do you go there when you yourself believe that God misguides whomever he wills, and you yourself believe that it is not obligatory on God, it is not God's duty to do what is best for his slaves? So in accordance with your conviction that God misguides whomever he wills and that God is not obligated to do what's best for his slaves, why can't a false prophet do some supernatural feat that does not backfire? That's the question. The answer is because if he could do a supernatural feat that does not backfire, then the slaves would not be able to tell the difference between a real prophet and a false prophet. And if they cannot tell the difference between a real prophet and a false prophet, they wouldn't be able then to believe in the real prophets. And then if they're not able to believe in the real prophets, then they wouldn't be accountable to believe in them, because as a religious rule, there is no accountability for what one is unable to do. So that's the answer. We say, because had the miracle taken place by the hand of a liar, then obliging the creations with faith in the prophets would be accountability for what they are unable to do. Yani, it would be making them accountable to do, let's say it that way. It would be making them accountable to do what they are unable to do. Didn't Allah say, "La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha"? Allah does not make any soul accountable but with its capacity. So this, which is the accountability of the unable, is not valid according to the religious texts and according to the consensus. It could also be said, Yani, another answer is that the miracle is a tool of truthfulness for its performer. And among the impossible, the intellectually impossible, is for something to exit its own reality, for something to be other than what it is. It's impossible for something to be other than what it really is. And a miracle really is a tool of truthfulness. So how could the tool of truthfulness work for a liar? that leads to overturning reality. Allah said, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. O Muhammad, say, bring your evidence if you are truthful. Surah An-Naml, ayah 64. And this supernatural feat happens to someone who claims prophethood. That's part of the definition. Happening to or being performed by someone who claims prophethood. So to exclude two types. Whoever claims godhood, so a supernatural phenomenon from someone who claims godhood, is religiously and mentally possible. However, it would not be a sign of his truthfulness because of the impossibility of his claim. So in this case, we're not necessarily looking for the supernatural feat to backfire because the claim itself backfired. The claimer is a created thing and not God. Thus, what he does is not a miracle. It is a lure, istidraj. And for this supernatural feat to happen to someone who claims prophethood excludes someone who does not claim godhood or prophethood, like the saint. What he does is not a miracle. It is a karama, a privilege, a supernatural sainthood privilege. And not being replicable by the opposition to discredit him excludes magic. For magic might be supernatural. I asked Sheikh Samir that. I told him, is magic khariqun lil'ada? Is magic supernatural? He said, ahyanan, sometimes. And it can be discredited by its likes, the magic, meaning that the magicians challenge each other to show who's the better magician according to them. Allah said, قُلْ فَأْتُوا بِعَشْرِ سُوَرٍ مِثْلِهِ مُفْتَرَيَاتٍ. O Muhammad, say, come with 10 fabricated chapters like it. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he ordered the people to obey him, because that's what God told him to do. And he told them that if ever they were able to bring something similar to the Quran, meaning if they were ever able to rival the Quran, I want to put it that way, then they do not have to obey. So that's their condition there. Bring something to rival the Quran or comply. The people of that language tried to nullify the obligation of obeying him, but they were unable. Had they been, they would not have resorted to war, which leads to killing, capture, and enslavement. They would have rather just produced some lines. They would have authored. If authoring some lines, if authoring some composition is enough to spare you from war, then you're going to author some lines in composition. Since they did not come with something similar to the Quran, something to rival the Quran, we knew that they were unable. How we knew they were unable by that, it's like when two youngsters are roasting each other, as they say these days. It's a challenge. It's a battle. They're roasting each other, going back and forth. One of them, though, he's just too strong. And he's really breaking that other guy's heart. And that other guy, he can't take it now. Khalas, he wants to fight. Why he want to fight? Because he couldn't take the roast. Couldn't take it. He couldn't hang in there. So that's how their case was. Just as the magicians of Pharaoh at the time of Musa were unable to oppose his miracles, and thus his truthfulness in his claim, or his truthfulness about his claim, became clear. Likewise, Isa defeated the doctors who were unable to do what he came with. It is said that Allah Ta'ala supports the prophets with miracles that are relevant to the situation of their time. At the time of Moses, the people were their strongest in sorcery. So Allah gave Moses miracles to defeat the sorcerers. And at the time of Jesus, the people were their strongest in medicine. So Allah gave him miracles that defeated the doctors. And at the time of Muhammad, the people were their strongest in discourse, speech. So Allah Ta'ala revealed to Muhammad speech that defeated all of the eloquent speakers, all of the poets, all of the speakers, all of the wise men, all of the educated ones. And he gave that speech to an unlettered man, a man who himself he cannot read or write. And this challenge here in this ayah, فَأْتُوا بِعَشْرِ سُوَرٍ مِثْلِهِ, bring 10 fabricated surahs like it. Muftarayat, yeah, because they claimed that the Quran was fabricated. Then bring 10 fabricated. So if it's fabricated, then fabricate some yourself. And bring 10 fabricated surahs like these ones that you claimed are fabricated. This challenge was reduced. When they were unable to do it, it was reduced to a single surah. It is not a condition that who claims prophethood challenges the creation to attempt to discredit his miracle by doing something similar. The condition is that it be suitable for a challenge. The condition of a miracle is to be suitable for a challenge, and not that it is to step up to a challenge. Some miracles besides the Quran have come as a challenge, and some have come without being preceded by a challenge, like Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam called his opponents to come with something similar to it, to bring something to rival it, or even one of its chapters. Its amazing composure has transcended all other types of composition. It has challenged all of the people and silenced them. Even the most eloquent speakers and poets were unable to compose what is similar to the Quran or what even comes close to it. Allah said, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ, Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 23. It means come with a chapter like it. Bring a single chapter of its caliber to rival it. Footnote. Some scholars said that the shortest chapter of the Quran is إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ. Surely we have given you, O Muhammad, the river of Al-Kawthar. They said that everything of the Quran that has the length of this chapter, whether or not it was from another chapter or even if it were one verse or more than one verse or a part of a verse, is included in the challenge. Yani, anything, according to the saying, any amount of Quran that's as much as Surah Al-Kawthar is a miracle. According to that, the number of miracles in the Quran reaches a large number. This means after a certain amount of composition of Quran, after a certain amount of letters and words and sentences in the Quran, it's a miracle that no human could compose. No creature could compose. The knowledge that they occurred, that the miracles occurred, is firstly by observation in reference to the witnesses. And for other than them, then it is by way of tawatur, successive mass report. Like our knowledge of the far-off lands and confirmed historical events and kings and nations of old. Information narrated by tawatur replaces witnessing. So mentally, it is necessary to accept whoever came with the miracle, just as it is religiously necessary, because he's doing something supernatural. And he's doing that to prove that he's telling you the truth. So when he tells you, I'm a prophet, and then you say to him, prove it, and then he does some supernatural feat, then you don't have any evidence after that to deny him. This is despite that most individual miracles were narrated through ahad routes. Yani, reports of individuals that only promote speculation, one by one. Yani, we think that that's true. And not certainty, the jazm, meaning it's possibly false on some level of possibility, even if it's improbable, some of those reports. Even if it's improbably false, it's possibly false. However, the news of many prophetic miracles have spread, become famous, and are narrated by many. This large number of narrators promotes certainty for those who have given special care to the knowledge of hadith and to the knowledge of biographies and narrations. This certainty is not eradicated by those who have not taken care of the knowledge of narrations, meaning Don't be doubtful. You don't be doubtful because someone who has not studied the knowledge is doubtful. And someone who has not traced the hadiths back, he's doubtful. You don't be doubtful for someone else's doubt. Yeah, because his doubt or denial, which is based on his ignorance and his lack of experience and his lack of research. And thus, for them, this issue has not reached the level that it has for those who have taken care. Those who have taken care of this issue, they are certain that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed miracles. Footnote. A group of scholars have taken care of gathering the accounts of the miracles of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Al-Bayhaqi, Abu Nu'aym, and others. And Nawawi mentioned in the introduction of the explanation of Sahih Muslim that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had more than 1,200 miracles. In Al-Madkhal, Al-Bayhaqi said they reached 1,100. They reached 1,000, yani 1,000. Nawawi said more than 1,200. Az-Zahidi of the Hanafis said that he performed 1,000 miracles. And it was said that he did 3,000 miracles. The totality of those miracles establishes the certainty that numerous matters that oppose nature have occurred from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just as there is certainty about the generosity of Hatim al-Ta'i and the bravery of Ali. Yani, the bravery of Ali, I wasn't there to see how brave he is, but his bravery is known by successive mass report. And the generosity of Hatim al-Ta'i, that's also known by successive mass report. And likewise, the miracles of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are known by successive mass report. Wa subhanallahi wa bihamdihi.